Hi, and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't noticed, we've got our ears on, so today is going to be a Disney vlog. Today I'm going to talk all things Disney parks, specifically Disneyland in Anaheim, California. I will be doing videos in the future on the other American Disney parks, so Disney World in Orlando, Florida, as well as an international Disney park. So make sure you like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on those. So whether it's your first time visiting the park or whether you're going back there after a long hiatus, hopefully today I'll be able to provide you with some information that will help you get the most out of your vacation, the most out of your trip. Disneyland is a big part of my childhood, so I definitely have a lot of great experiences and a lot of great information to share. But I also want to make sure that you get the best experience that you can out of your Disney vacation. And the information I'm talking about today is just based on my experiences and based on my preference. So this might vary depending on who you're traveling with, when you're traveling, and the things that you like to see when you visit the park. But I do want to encourage you, if you're thinking about it, to definitely make that trip out there. And hopefully this information will help get you the best experience possible. I'm gonna break this information down into 6 main categories. First, I'm going to talk about the best times and possibly the worst times to visit the parks. I'm going to talk kind of specifically about the weather and how that might impact your trip, as well as the busy times and the less busy times in the park. I'm going to talk about getting there and getting around and what that looks like. I'm going to talk about the hotel options, where to stay when you are at the park. I'm going to talk about buying tickets, how to buy tickets, and when to buy your ticket. And I'm also going to talk about Lightning Lane and park hoppers. I'm going to break those down a little bit and talk about if I think they're worth it when you are visiting the park. I'm going to talk about what to bring, so the essentials that I always have with me and what I definitely recommend you bring with you for your day at the park. And I'm going to provide a few tips and tricks for first timers to visit the park. Again, just to make sure that you get the best experience that you can when you are visiting Disneyland. I will try to timestamp these, so if there is a particular subject that you would like to skip over or skip to, please feel free to do so. So let's get started. First, I'm going to talk about the best times to visit Disneyland. California weather, especially Southern California weather, doesn't experience a huge swing like it does in other parts of the country. It does get cold and it does get really hot. So the best times to go are really going to depend on when you're going to see the most favorable weather for you and when crowds are going to be the busiest. Typically, the best times to go, or the least busiest times to go, are going to be mid-January through mid-March. This is after the holiday rush, after the holiday season. If you go mid-January, you're gonna see a lot of those really amazing holiday decorations and overlays still set up. So this is a great time to go. Even though it might be a little bit colder, and it tends to be the tail end, it tends to be right in the middle of that rainy season. It's a great way to go to see lower crowds as well as the great theming. Another great time to go is in May, before Memorial Day, and the tail end of April. This is after the spring break season in California and right before the summer. And mid-September through early November is also going to be another favorable time to go. This is when you're gonna see nicer weather. It's gonna start to cool down mid-September, and you won't quite get that winter weather and as much rain. And the crowds are gonna start to thin out. Students are back at school, people are back at work, and it's right before that holiday rush. It does get rainy and cold in the winter. So December, January, February, this is when you're likely to see the most amount of rain. With that said, it does not mean it's gonna rain every day. And I definitely have been there when, in the middle of December, when I've seen beautiful 70-degree weather. So definitely check ahead of time on what the weather is going to be, especially so you can tell if it's gonna rain. But these tend to be the more likely times in the year when you're gonna see really cold weather, and rain might put a damper on your trip, although I do have some tricks to kind of help with that as well. Summertime, anytime between Memorial Day at the end of May and Labor Day at the beginning of September, it also gets really hot. This is obviously going to be the hottest time of the year. Although it doesn't have the same humidity that Orlando, Florida does over at Disney World, a lot of that dry heat does really get stifling. So July, August, and early September Not only does it get hot, it also gets really busy. This is that busy summer season. This is when you see a lot of families and a lot of people frequent the parks. Weekends are generally going to be the busiest across the board, and sometimes late in the evening. This is when locals tend to frequent the parks. Typically, if you're going to go during the week, weekdays are going to be favorable over weekends. And really, if you have to go during those busy times, sometimes I would consider favorable weather over the crowds. So next I'm going to talk about how long I would recommend that you plan to travel to the area or travel to Disneyland. So Disneyland is comprised of 2 parks. So it's a lot smaller than the Disney World in Florida. And both of these parks, they're adjacent to each other in the plaza. So you don't have to take transportation in between. You can easily hop from one park to another. Disneyland is the original. This is in 1955. This is when it started everything off. And when it was conceptualized, it kind of revolutionized the whole theme park industry. So it's definitely the original. And all of the other parks, this is, since it was the original, a lot of the other parks are themed around this particular parks, different rides and different lands as well. So definitely has a lot of those iconic characters, has a lot of those iconic attractions. The second park is Disney California Adventure. This one has a separate entrance than it does to Disneyland. And it was built in 2001, where the original parking lot originally was. And the idea behind building this second park was, at the time, it was the smallest of all the parks, with Disney World being very large and being a multi-day park. And they essentially wanted that to be the same over in Anaheim. So when people go to Disneyland, typically they wouldn't spend more than a day, just simply with one park. So they set the expansion, and the whole idea behind Disney California Adventure was to theme it around California travel. So you're gonna see a scale model of the Golden Gate Bridge. You're gonna see Ghirardelli Square. You're gonna see Hollywood. You're gonna see a lot of the things that people would come to California to see. And they wanted them to experience that across multiple days, so they spend more time in the park. And this park has seen the most growth over the years since it was built in 2001. So the addition of a lot of different themed areas, similar to they have in Disneyland. So they've added Pixar Pier and Cars Land, which is really fun. And they've added a lot of great thrill rides. Even though Disneyland has that magic, Disneyland didn't really offer. My recommendation would be to spend at least 2 to 3 days if you're traveling to Disneyland. I would spend 1 day at each park, really taking in everything that each park has to offer. And then that third day can be more of a flexible day. So you can either revisit a park where maybe you didn't get a lot, didn't see everything you wanted to see, or you can spend that day park hopping. So spending a little bit more money to experience a little bit of what you missed in each park. Or that third day, shopping on Main Street is also a requisite if you're going to be at Disneyland or downtown Disney, which is outside of the gates. So that doesn't take an entry fee. So that third day could be spent just experiencing the food and the merchandise offering and just kind of taking in that atmosphere. If you're in the area and you wanted to see other attractions in the Southern California area, such as Universal Studios, I would definitely recommend several days in the area as your overall trip, but Disney, 2 to 3 days is what I would recommend being ideal. Now let's talk about getting there. I did a video recently on travel tips and tricks. So if you are traveling by air, I do recommend checking that out. That's going to give you a lot of great advice if you are traveling there before you even get to the park. There's several airports that are within maybe a 60-mile radius, so within fairly close proximity to, there is of course a major airport that's going to be probably the most convenient, but there's several smaller airports as well. And depending on what you plan to do when you are in the area or outside of Disneyland, rideshare to and from the airport is probably your best bet. If it's your first time in the area, getting around, navigating that traffic can be quite overwhelming. So a rideshare is definitely going to get you where you need to go. Once you are at Disneyland, both parks are close by, and a lot of times the hotels are either within walking distance or have a free shuttle, or there's also on-site parking. So you really won't need to worry about transportation when you're at the park itself. So next, I'm going to talk about a little bit more about the hotels and where to stay. When it comes to lodging, there are a lot of choices. You can either stay at an official Disney hotel, so an on-property hotel, or you can stay at an off-site hotel. And the choice for these is going to be really up to you and your preferences. There definitely are pros and cons for each, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about those. So let's start with the official on-property Disney hotels, and there are 3 of them. So there's the Grand Californian, which is pretty much in Disney California Adventure. There's the Disneyland Hotel itself and the Pixar Place Hotel. So all 3 of these are great options. Which one you choose from is really going to come down to your preference, your theming, and sometimes the price. So the pros of staying at a on-property hotel is the theming and the experience. There's second to none when it comes to that immersion and that whole Disney experience. So I definitely recommend, if this is your first time, or if you're traveling there with children, you really want to maximize the magic and maximize that experience. Staying at one of these Disneyland hotels is going to be really a wonderful experience. Other advantages are proximity to the parks. So the Grand Californian is literally almost in Disney California Adventure. You can see some of the balconies from certain parts of the parks. You just walk out of your door, you walk out of the front, and you are basically there. So if you want to take a break in the middle of the day, go back to your hotel room, you're right there. If you want to, at the end of the day, you don't really have very far to go. And the other hotels are also as easy to get to, either by walking or by shuttle. Also, the third advantage of staying at these hotels is they do offer early entry to the park. So that is another perk of staying on property, is that you do get in early to the park before everyone else does. So this gives you time to skip the lines at the entry gate and do that rope drop and get on those attractions right away and kind of have the park to yourself for a certain amount of time, which is a really neat experience. So one of the major cons of staying at these hotels is the price. They tend to be a little bit pricier. So if that is a concern of yours, that is something to think about when you're choosing to stay on property or off property. And it is well worth it. And obviously it's going to vary depending on the time of the year, which hotel you're staying at. And they do offer packages. So sometimes it's a little bit cheaper if you get your ticket and your hotel all together. So make sure you look into that as well to see if that is going to work for you. Next, let's talk about the offsite hotels. Whenever I travel to Disney, this is actually where I prefer to stay. There's a lot of choices right outside on that main road, right outside of Disneyland. Most of these are within a mile walking distance to the front gate, so maybe a 10 to 15 minute walk. There are hotels that are a little bit further away, so they're a few blocks away, and a lot of these do offer free shuttles to the parks, so you don't have to walk as far. So they're close enough where you can walk there in the middle of the day if you need a break. Also, walking to and from the hotels also allows you to pass by a lot of convenience stores. So this is where you can stock up on affordable snacks and water, either going there or at the end of the day, which is also really nice. They are not as... You obviously don't get the early entry when you're staying here, but they are really nice. And honestly, when I go, if I'm spending the whole day at the park, I'm mostly just sleeping at my hotel. So make sure you check the reviews before you go so you can find one that fits your needs and fit your standards. These are going to be a lot more affordable, and they are really, really nice and have a lot of options of really nice hotels as well. Another con for these is that they do fill up fast. So make sure that you book ahead of time to make sure that you get one that is at a good rate and that is close and that is pretty nice. So keep that in mind as well when you're booking these offsite hotels. Another thing about offsite hotels is if you have any loyalties to any hotel brands, a lot of these you can redeem points or you can earn points for a lot of these chain hotels. And that is, for me, as a frequent traveler, that's a really nice thing to consider as well. Let's talk about buying tickets. I'm going to talk about when to buy tickets and how to buy your tickets. So you can buy tickets online on the Disney website, really easy to do. You can also download the app, which I do recommend, and you can also buy your tickets on the app. I do recommend buying your tickets ahead of time. Do not, absolutely under no circumstances, wait until the day of to go buy them at the gate. Although you still probably could, I would not recommend that. I would recommend getting them ahead of time. And if you're worried about needing to cancel your trip or if something comes up, there is flexibility to being able to use the tickets. So even if you aren't, the ticket will be good for a long period of time, I think up to a year after the original date that you plan to go. So if your plans change, no sweat, but I do recommend getting those ahead of time as much as you can. Along with buying tickets, I'm going to talk about Genie Plus and Park Hoppers. So Genie Plus is going to be an add-on to your ticket that you can always purchase later, but Park Hoppers is going to be a certain type of ticket that you'll purchase with your tickets. So basically what a Park Hopper is it allows you to, instead of purchasing individual prices for both parks, you can purchase a Park Hopper. So at a discounted price for both parks, it allows you to go to both parks in the same day. You can start your day off at Disneyland and then end up at Disney California Adventure, or start at Disney California Adventure and use the same ticket to go over to Disneyland. So if you are going to spend your time in both parks in one day, definitely recommend this as an option, as it will definitely save you money. In regards to recommending a Park Hopper, I'm gonna say that depends. I personally have never opted for a Park Hopper simply because I have spent at least 2 days at the park. So I've had time to spend one day at Disneyland and one day in Disney California Adventure. But a Park Hopper is great if you are spending that third day and you want to just make sure that you see the attractions or the rides that you missed on those first days. Or if you have one day and you want to, there's a particular ride or attraction that you want to see in one of those parks. When you're in, let's say you're in Disneyland and you want to book a lightning lane for Disney California Adventure, you can go ahead and you can do that during the day. And then in that afternoon or when that time comes, you can go ahead and you can use your ticket to hop over to the next park. So it's really going to depend on, it does allow you to make the most out of your day. It does make you feel a little bit rushed. So it's really going to depend on what you want to see. And if you do want to see 2 parks in one day, that is the cheapest way to do it. Next, I'm going to talk about Genie Plus. So Genie Plus is an add-on to your ticket that you can purchase the day of when you're in the park. And this is done through the app. And basically this is the newest iteration of the Fast Pass system. Fast Pass used to be a free system in the park that would allow you to essentially jump the line or skip over the lines. You would basically scan your park ticket and you would get a return time, another ticket with a return time. So you'd be able to see other areas of the park and then you come back in that window. Typically it was a 2-hour window. And you'd be able to skip the line, minimal wait times, and you'd be able to get on that attraction. And that used to be free, but the disadvantage of that was convenience. You'd have to actually go to the attraction, physically get your ticket, and then you'd go somewhere else, and then you'd have to come back to that attraction during that, that window to take advantage of that Fast Pass. So Genie Plus does come at a cost. So at the time I'm filming this video, it is $30 per person per day. And what it does is it allows you to book these lightning lanes from your phone, from the app, when you're in the park, from anywhere. So if you're in Fantasyland and you want to book a lightning lane for Indiana Jones, which is on the other side of the park, you don't have to go all the way over there to Adventureland to book that lightning lane. You can do that from your phone and then you just go over there later on in the day. One of the cons of this is they do sell out pretty quickly. So in the morning when you first get in there, that's when I recommend making sure that you get those lightning lanes for all of your rides that you want to go on. Sometimes they run out, sometimes they don't offer them, or sometimes they're really, really late and you're just kind of at the end of the day, you may not even make it over there to that attraction. I personally would recommend the purchase of the Disney Plus. It makes things a lot easier. There are also a la carte options for rides as well. If you wanted to purchase a single lightning lane for a ride, you can do so at a single cost. And this is gonna vary depending on the attraction and the time of the day. So if it's busier, obviously it's gonna cost a little bit more. So I definitely recommend that you do that. Again, it's gonna save you the time and the convenience and allow you to get the most out of your experience at the park. All right, now let's talk about what to bring, or my recommendations for what you need to have in the park. First and foremost is sunscreen. So there are a lot of sunny days. There might be some days where you're gonna see clouds, you're gonna see rain, but there are a lot of sunny days in Southern California. And not having sun protection and a sunburn can absolutely ruin your day, and it will ruin your vacation. So make sure you're always applying sunscreen to make sure that you protect your skin throughout the day. Just have a travel size on you just in case you need it. I usually have one on me anyway, so I usually don't go without it. It's always recommended to have. The next is hat and sunglasses. At least a hat. Just like sunscreen can protect your skin, that sun is gonna be, there's direct sun that's gonna be beating down on you, especially when you're standing outside in those lines. So I definitely recommend bringing a hat. It's gonna be really easy to pack, they're nice and small. Out of all of the souvenirs that I would buy at the park, this would be one of them. Something that you wear on a regular basis. I frequently wear hats when I'm outside, walking, running. They are a great thing to have. So if you buy one at the park, this is a really great way to kind of kill two birds with one stone. You can buy the hat to protect your face and your head from the heat, but you can also have a really nice souvenir. So I definitely recommend either bringing one, or if you're gonna buy one at the park, I would recommend that as well. The next item is a light jacket or sweater or a poncho. So if you're going during the winter time or spring and there is rain in the forecast, you will want to have a poncho. It's going to be a lot easier to carry around than an umbrella, and it will be essential if it starts to rain. Again, getting wet can kind of ruin your day if you get wet from the rain. It's really easy to roll up and carry with you, as well as a light jacket. So with the exception of some of the summer months, sometimes typically the early morning and late evening can get a little chilly. So I usually have just a light sweater on me that I can just take off when it gets a little bit warmer, pack in my bag, take it out again at night when it starts to cool off. Something that's lightweight and easy to carry around. You really won't need one that's too thick, but having one of these is going to be really great on you when you do need it. The fourth item is essential, cannot do without, is a charger or a battery pack. I will link one in the description. I don't go anywhere without one. If I'm gonna be out of the house for a long period of time, I always have it on me. Relatively inexpensive, $20, $30 for a good one. And it fits in your pocket, fits in your purse. It is with you at all times. You will be using your phone for those requisite pictures, those requisite castle pictures, those pictures to commemorate your trip. And your phone battery will drain. And that Disney app is going to drain your battery pretty quickly. There are places where you can rent a rod to charge your phone. I recommend having these because they're great to have anyway, and they're really, really easy and lightweight. They can easily give you at least a charge or two on your phone, so you can charge your phone and somebody else's, or charge your phone twice. These are essential to have, so that way it's always with you and you don't have to worry about that. And finally, one thing to have is water. So you can bring in water and snacks into the park, as long as you're not bringing in glass. So that is the one restricted item that you can't have when it comes to water. So a insulated water bottle is fine. You can even buy water bottles at a convenience store and bring those in as well. You can get ice. If you bring in a water bottle, an empty water bottle, get ice from your hotel, fill it with water, and you can have that with you. Have nice cold water on you at all times. Also, if you do happen to have water bottles or do pass a convenience store, get the plastic water bottles, and the night before, throw them in the freezer in your hotel room, and you have ice cold water. These will be heavier, and there's gonna be a lot to carry when you first go in the morning, but as you start to consume them throughout the day, it's gonna lift that weight, and you will be very thankful that you have that water. You can't always find a water stand when you need it, and oftentimes it's gonna save you a great deal of money. And finally, I'm gonna talk about some tips for first timers. First and foremost are single rider lines. So basically, these are separate lines that rides have set up. So sometimes if there is an odd number of riders on an attraction or in a ride vehicle, so let's say there's a group of 2 and a group of 3 that are on a ride vehicle and there's an open space, that can affect the ride capacity. There's an extra space that somebody could have been sitting there. So what they have done is, for some attractions, they have opened another line where somebody, if they're traveling by themselves or there's just that one person, it can wait in the line, and it is typically, not always, but it's typically a lot faster, because a lot of times we like to ride with people who we're traveling with. So if there's if there's one seat, there's a single rider, you can get right on that ride. The disadvantage of this is that you may not always ride with the person you came with. So my husband and I did this a couple of times, and maybe 1 out of 5 times we got 2 seats together or in the same vehicle. But if you don't mind that, I recommend looking for the rides that have the single rider and definitely taking advantage of that. It's gonna get you through the line a lot quicker. With that said, the caveat is that sometimes, even if they have a single rider line, they might be closed at some time in the day, so always keep that in mind as well. Another tip is to get there early, even before the park opens, sometimes up to an hour before the actual park opens. You may not think so, but there's actually a line to wait in line. There's a line even to get in the front gate at Disneyland most of the time. So you want to get there as early as possible and try to get it as far front of that line as possible. That way you get in earlier and you can get kind of first in line for that attraction. So definitely try to get there early. Don't assume that you are going to be able to just kind of breeze in there. There will be a line for that gate. And prioritize the attractions you want to see. So make a list, pick the ones you want to see first. Those are the ones you are going to go first in the morning. Once you get those out of the way, you experience those, you feel a lot more flexibility throughout the day. And if you can ride on them again, maybe you're getting a lightning lane for one, or maybe there's a reasonable wait time for another one, you can go on them again later in the day. But prioritize and make sure that you get on the rides that you want to see, and that is going to allow you to get the most out of your vacation as well. And finally, download the app. If you didn't already before you enter the park, make sure you have that app downloaded. Not only can you buy your tickets this way, but you can also order food. You can do mobile ordering, which is a lot easier and more convenient to do instead of waiting in line at a restaurant. You can also look at wait times for attractions. You can look at show times. That has all the information you need. Booking, if you purchase Genie Plus, this is where you're going to be able to purchase lightning lanes as well. So having that app is going to have everything you need to make sure that you are having the best experience throughout your day. And finally, just to make sure that you are taking advantage of all of those special experiences. So character dining, before you go, make sure you investigate and take a look at those character dining experiences. Those can be a little bit pricey, but they're definitely worth it, especially if you don't plan to go. This is going to be the only time you're going to go there in a while, or you're not sure if you're going to be when you're going to be able to visit the park again. This is going to be such a great experience. Just make the most of it. Take pictures, make memories. Hopefully this information was helpful. Leave a comment down below if you have, if there's anything I missed, or if there's anything you'd like me to take a deeper dive on. Thank you again for clicking on today's video and being here with me today. And hopefully safe travels, and I will see you next time.